We're going to be doing a special review. It's going to be on the Hatsan FlashPup QE model. This one happens to be in 25 caliber. We're going to be talking about featherweight firepower. And the airgun industry, for the longest time, we're kind of limited in our choices, right? And you know, if we wanted a good gun, generally it would be weight would come along for the ride. So a gun that's heavier than 7 pounds. That was kind of a common thing. Sometimes the perception is if it's heavy, it's got a quality build, and if it's heavy, it's expensive. But that's not necessarily true. And just because it's heavy doesn't mean that it's necessarily stronger or a better valued option. So today we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to go into detail a little bit. Also, another first that Hatsan produced when this rifle hit the markets was the first bullpup to come in at under $400 price tag. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit, the value associated with this rifle and how it kind of made owning a bullpup more common, okay? Because before this point in time, to get a bullpup, you would have to shell out considerable amounts of money. We're talking in the above $500 range. We're talking, our Adamans, guns, these really cool rifles kind of took the market by storm. People were very happy with the rifles. They're very good rifles, but we're trying to talk about an entry-level priced rifle, okay? A rifle that's going to be easily sought out and found by potential buyers, and that will have a good value in terms of price point and what the tool is going to give us in return for our money. So the FlashPup came in at a 6-pound rifle, about 6.5 pounds. Okay, so ultra light. With respect to some of my other rifles, Avonix Rainstorm, we've got the Hatsan Glacian. These aren't light rifles. These are very heavy. So when I was looking at purchasing a rifle, okay, and this rifle happened to hit the markets, I was saying, that's cool. You're talking about a compact rifle design, right? Because it's bullpup in its very nature. So the whole goal is to take the receiving action from up here where it would normally be on a rifle and moving it back. Okay, and in doing so, you're making a stable shooting position because all the center of the weight, okay, is next to the shooter's shoulder. So it's more similar to, how thick a branch can get when it's closer to the tree. You're trying to support ongoing weight that's going to continue to the end. Okay, so this being closer, the weight being closer to the shooter's shoulder makes it really cool. Okay, and the positioning of the grip makes it to where you can get an elbow against the body with your forearm and get a really precise tucked in shot. And you might have happened to notice, if you've got a sharp eye, that I did a little bit of paint work on mine. Believe it or not, this is actually a darker color of olive drab. Okay, and it's actually kind of a matte, and it's kind of a textured finish. I'll see if I can't get you in there to look at that a little bit. Do you see how it's kind of textured? Okay, and there's places where it's scratched. I haven't, really babied this gun. Truth be told, this has been kind of my go-to gun as of recently. See how that offers a form of texture? So I painted it with Alumahide, I believe is what it's called, and you can get it from Brownells. I highly recommend it. Or spray paint can, and you can spray it on and then let it cure, and it will harden up. Okay, and it costs maybe $15 a can. It's a really good product. It's a very durable coating. The reason I painted this is because the wood, even though I love wood stocks, okay, and I've seen some of the other stocks that Hatsan offers, and they definitely do make beautiful stocks. I've had a chance to hold a few at that store that sells nothing but pre-charged pneumatics, and I saw a lot of really beautiful stocks made by them. This one wasn't it. So I painted it with aluminum hide, or alumahide, and I went ahead and took all the plastic fittings off, and I got it. I actually put it in my household oven, put that in there for about I want to say 20 minutes at like 150 degrees, and it helps cure it. It helps bake it. A lot of paints you can't handle it for a week, possibly several weeks, and you want to make sure that there's humidity levels that are acceptable. Okay, so you want it nice and dry. Some polymers don't react very well with moisture. Some do, like RTVs and stuff like that. Sometimes those can actually cure faster in the presence of moisture. This was not one of them. This is an epoxy based. Okay, and interestingly enough, this can, I was actually doing a paint job. I'll get you in for another look. I was doing a paint job for a customer on a gun that he really wanted painted, and his gun was actually desert camo colored. Okay, it was like a khaki or a tan, and he wanted me to paint it khaki colored, so I ordered the alumahide khaki color, and this is what I got. There was no compensation. They didn't try, and they're just like, hey, it's the world. They basically described me like this, like, it's the world of paints. It's just so subjective. And I'm like, not really, man. I was like it's kind of definitely olive drab. It's definitely not khaki, and it's definitely not sand color. It's not even in the realm. So, to each their own. I was actually happy with the results, and my customer was happy with the results, because he had this dual tone. He had this, like, the slide of the pistol that I painted was this color, which we can all agree. And guys, please feel free to comment in the description of what color this really is to you, and get crazy with it, guys. I'm totally encouraging you. Come up with your own Crayola colors. So that's basically what happened. That's the paint job. I wanted something. I liked the fact that it offered an aggressive, textured sort of feel to it. And like I said, I wasn't wowed necessarily by the stock, but also this is a way to preserve the stock. So if I wanted to, I could sand it, right? I could take it back to bare bones, and just restart. And maybe, who knows, maybe the wood grain underneath, the original wood grain finish, maybe it could be dyed and refinished, right? So that's something I'm kind of into. I refinish old rifles and guns in my spare time, whether it be hot bluing, cold bluing, epoxy coating or cerakoting, that kind of stuff. That's something I like to play around with. And if you notice these little paintings I painted on there, I'll see if I can't get you in to where you guys can actually see what I'm talking about. I know you guys might have noticed, these little hieroglyphics, or mathematical equations describing something. Well, the reason I painted this was I actually took a job. I'll see if I can't get you in a little closer. I actually took a job, and it was out of town, and I heard these guns going off in the woods. It was near a wooded environment, and I heard these guns going off in the woods, and I asked the gentleman that worked there, okay, at this establishment. I said, what is that? Who's shooting in the woods, basically. And one of the guys actually mentioned, he said that's the Indians. And I said, the Indians? I said, that's interesting. I didn't know there was any Indians around here. And said, yeah, they reassured me. They said, there's a tribe of Indians, a tribe of Indians that own that land over there. And I said, wow, that's cool. So I already had this rifle at the point. I was already planning on repainting it, and I have a little bit of Blackfoot in me. Yeah, believe it or not, I've got a little bit of Blackfoot. I got the Italian so I can talk with my hands, but apparently I have a little bit of Blackfoot Native American in me. So these, I looked up some, Google results on some supposedly credible sites, and apparently in Blackfoot, this basically means strike enemy, or strike fear in the enemy, and then got an equal sign, and it basically means more or less will succeed in battle. So strike fear in the enemy will equal success in battle is kind of what this means. And the feather, some people interpret it as the fletching on an arrow, ironically, is what a lot of people have told me. But it's actually supposed to be a feather, and you see that Hatsan's logo right there. So you kind of see how it's all tying in. I had a job that, I needed a rifle that was compact overall, that could be thrown in my truck and not take up space, right? And I had access to a lot of land. And, I thought it was neat that there was an Indian tribe nearby. And either way, this was kind of the theme I just went with. It just kind of came to me. It's kind of like the olive drab made me think like 1940s, classic, and then, kind of the Native American appeal. And so that's just kind of, I have a lot of painters in my family. I've got a niece that's an excellent painter. I've got an uncle who's a very, very famous painter. His name's Tommy Panay. And so if you're ever interested in him out, he does excellent abstract paintings. I kind of do abstract paintings as well. And painting, y'all didn't tune in to hear about that. You'll want to hear about the rifle. So the rifle to me was groundbreaking because it seemed like what Hatsan did was they streamlined this in a way, okay? That FX streamlined their lineup, right? They came out with rifles that were more budget friendly, and that's what they were trying to do here. And I thought it was a big move on their part, because not only were they trying to, make a more budget friendly rifle, but make one that is a bullpup, right? So they were changing the script, so to speak. So back to overall size and dimensions, okay? I want to give you guys kind of a good outlook on what that looks like. We can see how the bullpup design kind of benefits us, right? In terms of overall length. Let's see. Bring the Glacian in just for a size reference. So is not very long at all. So it's 32 inches long. Now I've tested it with these ammos, and interestingly enough, guys, one thing I wanted to talk about was power. So power-wise, this is putting out, it's throwing lead at about 900 feet per second. It's not quite as fast as the Glacian, okay, in terms of how fast it's throwing or the amount of FPE it's putting out. Okay, but believe it or not, that's actually kind of beneficial. And I'm going to tell you guys one really neat little factoid about this rifle. Okay, these are the H&N Field Target, the Field Target Trophy. These are 19.91 grain. Okay, so when I fired these through the Glacian, okay, I was out in the field, and it was weird because my rifle's dialed in, right? Okay, I should have these targets dead to right at 50 yards, okay? And I wasn't able to hit the target, which was approximately the size of a paper plate, your average paper plate. I couldn't even get on target. And what it turned out is with these specific pellets, the Field Target Trophy, they're really lightweight. Okay, they're barely on the border of 20 grains. And what was happening, and I could actually see it happen through my Glacian scope, the rounds were spiraling. So they were actually coming out way too hot, way too fast, and they were spinning, and it was causing a corkscrew effect. And I've heard about this in the airgun forums. I've heard about it. I've heard YouTubers mention it before, and I'd never seen it myself. And as soon as I stepped up the weights of the pellets that I was using, okay, and said, well, I bought these because they were on sale and they were a really good price, okay? And so that was my logic behind buying them, and I said, why not give them a try? Well, it became apparent that the Glacian was not liking them. It was just gonna corkscrew them, and they were gonna miss, damn near a 6-inch target at 50 yards. That's not good. That's not ethical hunting. So I just tossed them in my backpack and continued on with my JSB Exact heavies, okay, my King heavies, okay. Right here by way of reference. I'll go ahead and see if I can't get you in there. So I continued on with these, and the gun went back to zero. It was dead on target the rest of the weekend. So interestingly enough, I still had those rounds laying around, and I said, you know what I want to do? I want to test these through the FlashPup and see if it likes them. And sure enough, they were dead on target. So it wasn't throwing them fast enough to destabilize them, effectively losing accuracy, okay, And interestingly enough, I've heard good reviews on the H&N Grizzlies, okay, and I've heard bad reviews on them too. So it just depends on your rifle. And I was kind of I was hopeful that it would like them, because these are, big boy, heavy 31 grain slugs, okay. And so the name of the game is, a lot of FPE, right, a lot of energy on target, and a hollow point to boot, right? So I wanted to really see what those could do, and the H&N Grizzlies fire very accurately. Now, there will be a point of impact change from pellet to pellet and weight to weight, but I can dial in with them, and they're accurate, okay? So this started showing me that, hey, it's not necessarily a pellet fussy rifle, okay? It likes really heavy stuff, and it likes really light stuff, right? So its ability to adapt to a wide range of pellets is pretty cool. I know I just have H&N sitting up here in JSBs, but I actually throw more through it than that. I've thrown Crossman rounds through it. These are the Barracudas, okay? Just, you gotta love these rounds, right? Accurate. So, and I also have the H&N hollow points. I've got, I believe they're called Skinkos hollow points, and I've got the metal tip penetrating rounds. So there's a wide variety. So let's look at the gun a little bit more closely and talk about some of the aspects of this rifle. You've got this kind of pick rail up front that's removable, right? So if you don't like that and you want a really good stretched out sort of grip, you can take those Allens out and do away with it. Or if you want a foregrip, okay, or something like that, you can go ahead and do that, or a light, whatever you prefer. Okay, this is the dust cover type system that it's kind of got going on with it. It's a plug style. So when you push it through, when you push your probe in, it pushes through, it comes out the other side, and you just catch it. And so that's how that's kind of handled. It's not a really big deal. It's just something you have to be mindful of. You don't want to drop it in the dirt. So what I do is I take, my lid from my can. When I open this up, I keep a lid, and then when I go to refill, I just keep my lid next to my ammo. And I keep the fill probe next to that, to where I can just pop out my plug, put it in the top of the tin can, keep it nice and clean, and then return it when I'm done. Easy enough, right? This is the QE version. You might have heard me mention that earlier. So QE is Hatsan's attempt to offer a moderated rifle, okay, or a shrouded rifle from factory. So an integrated moderator or a shrouded moderated system, right? Taking the baffles out, they are removable. You can, this is an end cap, and you can unscrew it, okay? So you can unscrew it, and there are threads on there, and there is a baffled system in there that stacks up. It can be removed, and I have actually removed it, and I have actually fired it with buddies around, and they got to hear it, and they were surprised at how much of a bark this puts out. That's the way I would describe it. It puts out a pretty good bark. We also have the manometer right there. It's on the bolt side of the rifle, and it's always better to set a rifle down on the side, right, that is not the bolt side or operator side. So appropriately placed, don't you think? It's on this side where the rifle would want to rest, okay, to keep this from getting in the dirt and keep the action or any exposed bits from getting in the dirt. It kind of makes sense to have it on that side, right? So let's take a look at that. It's there you go. It's close to its fill line, right? So 200 bars, it's working pressure, okay. And there are reminders for those of us that tend to forget, okay. And I'm actually, I haven't covered it. I will cover it in future videos, okay, for filling the air reservoir, okay? And we'll do a whole video on that for guys that don't know, and for guys that maybe do know, maybe you pick something up, okay? I use scuba tanks, but all my scuba tanks are aluminum scuba tanks. They fill to 3,000 psi, okay? That's about where I get them filled. So overpressurizing this gun is very hard to do, if not impossible, okay? So that's kind of just to comfort people that might be nervous about filling a gun for a first time, okay? This is spec to 3,000 psi, and a lot of times they're actually spec to a higher degree than what they're recommended. Obviously, you don't want to exceed what they're telling you that is acceptable to put in. But so let's take you to shooting characteristics, okay? And so here's our trigger. We have a simple toggle flip manual safety, okay? It is tactile. You can easily find it with gloves or without. It's got a sort of a rounded area to it, okay? Sorry, I'm trying to find myself through the viewfinder. It's got a positive click, okay, so good job, Hatsan. That's well executed. It's simple enough. It doesn't need to get better than that, right? Okay, this is the UTG Bugbuster. So, and it is an illuminated reticle. It's, I believe, green and red. That's kind of what we're limited to, which is fine because I prefer, if I'm hunting at night, red reticles and whatnot. They actually, I believe I bought that from Midway USA. They sent me the wrong scope. They sent me the wrong model. I shouldn't even be bringing it up because I didn't even complain about it. I was like, whatever, let's get on down the road. But they were supposed to send me the model that had the parallax adjustment on this side. I believe it's an updated model. So the parallax or focus is up here. So good job there, Midway USA, for that one. If you happen to be watching Midway USA, you might want to update that, inventory list there. Let's take ourselves to the bolt action. It is a bolt action. The bolt is to the rear. One criticism, I'll actually zoom out so we can talk about it a little bit. One criticism that this gun has got, it's been getting really high rating reviews, okay, 4.5 star, that kind of thing. It's been getting a lot of attention because it's really the only bullpup in its price range, in its class of 400 or lower, right? Okay, this one specifically I bought for $320 off eBay. Okay, there was a little bit for the shipping. Okay, I don't even remember what it was, probably 20 bucks, 30 bucks, something like that, right? Okay, but for all intents and purposes, we're talking just the gun. How much did it cost? $320. That's what I paid. Okay, so a lot of guys, the criticism has been that the bolt is a little bit sticky, okay? So pulling the bolt back and cocking it is a little bit sticky. So I just cocked it. I'll go ahead and remove the magazine because we'll be talking about that pretty soon here. So a lot of guys have discussed how the bolt is sticky, and it's got a little bit of a positive click to it, okay? I don't know if you guys could have heard it when I did it, but that's kind of, I haven't found it to be a problem. And a lot of the guys that said the bolt was sticky still gave it 5 stars in terms of how cool it was, how good of a gun it was. It's a little bit sticky, okay? But there's a couple things I did to mine. I found that the bolt, okay, when I adjusted, made some adjustments, okay, and I took it out of its receiver and I did trigger adjustments. The trigger engagement is kind of where you're getting your click from, okay, and so doing adjustments to the trigger and lightening up the trigger a little bit kind of helped out with that a little bit. And then also the other thing that I had done that was of notable difference is you can kind of see it. There's a oil in there. So what I used was Ballistol. I went ahead and put Ballistol on the bolt with a Q-tip, and then I cleaned it and just kept cleaning it, and then adding more oil every so often, working the action and cleaning it. And the reason is because I'm kind of polishing or seasoning it, so to speak. And ballistol, the reason I use ballistol is because it's supposed to be safe with O-rings and rubber, and so stuff that the seals, right? Okay, stuff that might be in an air rifle. Ballistol works wonders. I love it. I use it for more than just pre-charged pneumatics. Okay, enough said there. But so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to lift out any metal shavings or anything like that from factory as it's breaking in. So it takes a little breaking in, okay, but after that, it's all good. Magazine real quick, this is our magazine. And for reference, we have the Evonix Rainstorm 2's auto indexing magazine, okay, or cassette style mag. This is the FlashPup's cassette style mag, and this is the Glacian's revolving type mag, cylinder type mag, okay, metal, okay. And I'm gonna kind of discuss in more detail kind of attributes, okay, benefits, pros and cons to the different styles of mags. The thing that I specifically like about this style of mag, okay, or a cassette mag, okay, I know how I said that you guys remember, if you've seen some of my other reviews, how I said I might not be so fond of these, okay, or that I don't care for them necessarily. Okay, it's not that I don't like them, okay, I like them just fine. I have had problems, I have had nightmares with the Crossman. I ordered some Crossman mags, and they just didn't work. Whether there was too much spring tension, okay, on this rotary system, okay, it's kind of like a drum mag, okay, it's wound, okay. So whether there was too much spring tension, it was seeming to bind up and lodge the pellets sideways while it was feeding in. And so there was all kinds of issues with that magazine to where it did not want to feed, okay? And I noticed some pellets did better with it, some did not. With this mag, I haven't had any of those problems, okay? And that was kind of a nerve-wracking moment when I pulled the trigger on buying this rifle off eBay, because at the time, the Hatsan was recalling the mags. You can actually see right there, when I pulled that bolt back, okay, over here, when you just saw me pull the bolt back, okay, this was the empty cylinder. Now it auto-indexed over, okay, so now it's ready to load a new round in once the mag is inserted and the bolt goes forward, right? It's providing that loaded chamber, right? So one benefit that I find with this mag that's really, really cool, okay, unlike these two mags, okay, these two styles, even though they're this one and this one are similar, okay, they're very similar in the sense they both look like cassettes. But one really cool feature about this magazine is that tab, when it completes its journey, okay, and goes all the way through, this is the way it's spinning, when it completes this journey, it ends up right there. So what you get is a bolt stop follower, okay? So for the shooter, when you're shooting, okay, basically what happens is this blocks the path of the bolt, and it lets the operator know, hey, you have no more ammo. These ones do not have that. So once you finish its cycle, if you aren't counting your rounds, what's going to happen is you're going to end up firing air. So that's wasted air, right? So we don't want to waste air. So you either you're faced with the situation of A, counting your shots, or maybe prematurely just changing the magazine to make sure you've got a fresh mag, right? And if you're target shooting, it's not necessarily a big deal. If you're hunting, it is a big deal, right? So it's a neat feature, and like I said, if you're a gun, or if you're looking at a gun that doesn't have this feature, that's not a deal breaker, right? One thing that I like about these mags versus this mag is what I was talking about earlier. Did you see how when I pulled the mag out, it auto-indexed, right? So now we have a round that would otherwise go in the chamber, right? Okay, so the only way to get rid of it is to load it in the rifle and fire it out. Okay, it's an enclosed rotary system, whereas this is more of an exposed rotary system, to where we can return it, right? Okay, so when I'm done shooting it, okay, before I top it off and refill it, I put the mag in fully loaded, and I sacrifice 1 round in a safe direction, okay? And then there you have it. It's resting on an empty chamber. If I want to put in my truck, safely transport it, with an empty chamber, I can go ahead and do that. But it takes a little more forethought, okay? And so that's just something to be noted. Other than that, like I said, these mags work fantastically. You have this milled out portion, okay? And that's how you know it fits in the receiver like that. So I'll go through the shooting cycle with this. So you pull the bolt back, you lock it down forward, right? Then you pull the trigger, right? You find your target, you pull the trigger, and you repeat that process. When it's out of ammunition, you pull it back and you use your bolt hold open notch, okay? And then you load a new mag in, and then you lift this forward, and then you load it, okay? That's how that kind of goes. One thing to be noted, okay, is this whole bolt hold open notch right there is not a safety notch. I'm just letting you guys know. I've had my shirt brush this when I was out shooting. Luckily, there was no ammunition present in the rifle, okay? But when it traveled forward, for whatever reason, it traveled far enough forward to let gas out. I mean, it fired. And probably not to the same degree, right? Not the same spring tensions and pressures that it's full velocity, but still it fired. So just be noted, guys, this is not this loading notch is not a safety system of any kind, okay? To me, the only safety system of this is to keep your hammer lowered. So right now the hammer's still under tension, so pulling the trigger while actually holding the bolt, okay, and slowly letting it down. Me to another point, because when we talk about this rifle, okay, it is a bullpup, and so that's kind of a phase or a thing with bullpups is that they have an awkward loading system, right? Because you have it to the rear, and on a lot of high dollar guns, right, the bolt action has been moved up here. Think more FX Wildcat, okay, FX Impacts, and even jumping away from FX, Ed Gun's got a really cool action, okay? The bolt is located up here, and it's an ambidextrous, what I believe to be a straight pull system, okay? That makes a lot of sense. I love that. So, but you can see why they didn't do that here, right, guys? Because this is a streamlined approach, okay? This is trying to give you the most gun for your money, but not necessarily having to tool up, which costs money, okay? And would mean that this is a higher priced rifle, right? Okay, so it makes sense in this given scenario. I've noticed shooting prone, and I'm more so speaking with guests, having guests get on this gun. They find it hard to shoot laying down prone, okay, and manage the bolt. I've noticed that with even shooters that have a lot of experience shooting, they seem to have trouble with that. But they don't have trouble, okay, shooting the gun, just shooting the gun. And what I mean by that is all those bigger rifles that I brought in, I've had guys shoot all 3 of them, and I'll put them on this rifle first. And at first, they're shooting it, right? And they're having a blast, right? Everything's going good. And then they want to shoot the bigger guns, or the more lengthier guns, right? And they start discovering real quick how the weight is working against them. So all that length, all that weight starts accumulating, and it becomes harder to place a shot. And so it defies one of the facts in my mind about this rifle, and that's its easy handling characteristics, right? Going back to that whole, the weight is closer to the shoulder, it's also a shorter rifle. So I can see this being used in a scenario where you're in brush country to where you aren't going to be shooting past 50 yards, okay, because you can't see past 50 yards. It's all brush, okay, and you want a shorter, more compact gun. Either that, or you just want the ease of transportation and a lower profile. Maybe you have nosy neighbors that don't need to see you carrying, you know, something that's the size of a Barrett 50 caliber, okay, or an Air Force Texan or something like that. Something more compact will do. This will do. And interestingly enough, guys, this whole QE moderated system that they included, the shrouded system, look what it's got on it, guys. Hold on, I'll see if I can't bring you in. Yeah, recognize that? Pretty cool. And I'm not saying Hatsan copied off me, okay? I'm not some kind of like engineer, you know. But apparently it works, and it's a concept that works. And believe it or not, when you pull the trigger on this gun right there, okay, you can feel a plume of air come back. And that goes back to, I'm going to assume you guys didn't see my last video, but that goes back to they don't want air stacking up. They want to create a free-flowing shroud. So when pressures build up, it can bleed off. That's what that is it's a port, okay? We have a version that's cut down, so it's literally, I'll take the camera in, okay, it's literally that big. It has, you know, and it's, I believe it's offered in the UK or other countries. For whatever reason, they aren't really importing them to the US. I know of one website off the top of my head that's willing to do it. I can't remember their name quite, but it has a full barrel. It's there's no shroud, and then it's got like half UNF threads so that you can put on your own moderator. And I kind of wish I had that. Speaking of other versions, okay, that reminds me, the synthetic version also came out, okay, and it's actually a different model. I'm not saying entirely, but there are things different about it, and I had a chance to actually hold it when I was in that pre-charged pneumatic store that specializes in air gun hunting. I got a chance to take a little gander at it, and so the bolt is different. It has a more elongated, you know, chrome bolt, that kind of thing, okay? And we're noticing right now how the stock is hollowed out, okay, right here. That way the operator's hand can operate it and still get a good purchase on that bolt. I'll go ahead and raise it up so you can see how far it protrudes. There's enough space to get in there. Even if you have big old mitts, okay, you can totally do it. So I also like, and a lot of people, I brought up the manometer, so I'll go back to that real quick. A lot of people like the manometers here, right? Because it's not at the end of the gun, right, where you're going to have to look, right? And that's the business end of the rifle, and we don't necessarily want to stick our face near that. And I'm not saying that you can't get a look at a manometer that happens to be right there, okay, without getting your head in the way. I do it all the time. And really, if you're safety conscious and you're a little bit more witty than the rest of the guys, you can have a mechanic's mirror, okay, a tiny little mirror you throw in your gun sack, and you can just, while you're filling, hold the mirror up, okay? Don't get me wrong, I prefer it right there. It's a hell of a convenience, and that's something that the Rainstorm has, okay? It has its manometer on the fore end, okay? That's cool, I like that. But it's not a deal breaker, like I said, that the Glacian has a manometer on the end. It just takes, like I said, a little more forethought, right? And so, speaking of, going back to models, sorry to jump around on you guys. So, the synthetic version, one thing that I noticed that I absolutely loved about it is instead of a flat-bladed trigger, I'm trying to get it to where I can show you guys appropriately. So, instead of a flat-bladed trigger, you see how those edges are just ever so slightly sharp, okay? Instead of a flat-bladed trigger, it has a rounded trigger that's a lot thinner, okay? And the longer bolt and the rounded trigger, it feels awesome. And I noticed that the stock or forearm, okay, it seems like it's kind of changed a little bit of the geometry, and it has that slant thing, reinforcement thing right here. I don't know. I absolutely love it. Speaking of, this rifle is very easy to handle. And by handle, I mean you can literally tuck this in the crook of your arm and carry it. Just, there's all different ways to handle it. By the way, just another little factoid came to my mind about this very rifle. I actually dropped this rifle from shoulder level on the ground, and it's still holding 0 with the scope, with the barrel, and it had a nasty slap on concrete. Okay, so and I've actually taken it apart since then, and yeah, it's sustained no damage, no cracked stock, no nothing. That's a real story by Cap and Knife. Not that I'm saying that go out there and run it over with a deuce and a half or something like that. Standard that it seems to be holding up. So accuracy, let's talk accuracy real quick. So it's basically one of my specifications, okay, just for hunting, and I like all my guns to be able to have that kind of capability, okay. It can shoot quarters easily at 50 yards, okay. Terms of specs and what it offers you, the role that this is playing is a lightweight, compact, pre-charged pneumatic. In the future, we'll be doing shooting videos where we'll shoot some of these guns and let you see firsthand ease of operation, shooting characteristics, and you'll be able to see power potential levels where we're shooting at hard targets, reactive targets, possibly ballistic gel or clay, and we'll get an idea of what these things can do in terms of targets, in terms of accuracy as well, what kind of groupings these can get. Our trigger adjustments are right under there, okay? You do have the ability to make adjustments there, and you can remove the stock, which is the way I prefer to do it. I noticed that this trigger had a little bit too much slop in it, I mean from side to side, and I really don't care for that too much from factory. I don't like it when you can rattle a trigger or shake a gun and hear the trigger rattling, so I shimmed it out. There's certain things like that people have been doing, and there are a lot of mods that people have been doing to this rifle to take it up several notches. That's not to say that this is anything to shake a stick at. This is a phenomenal rifle. With respect to this rifle, okay, and its price range, I wanted to give you a realistic competitive options list. And so some of the rifles that came to mind that were under $400 or right about that price point was the K-Row Puncher NP-03. So that's NP-03. That's a carbine. It's not a bullpup, okay, but the reason I considered it, okay, was because it's in that 31 overall inches in length to 34 inches. It has an adjustable stock, and it's a carbine length gun, okay? It weighs 6 pounds. So, and it just so happens that the K-Row Puncher / Breaker Silent, I know that's a mouthful, that one actually is a little bit shorter than this one. This one right here is a 31-inch or a 32-inch gun. The K-Row Puncher Breaker Silent is a 29-inch gun, okay? It's a little bit heavier, though, okay? It weighs 7.5 pounds. It's also $100 more expensive, and I also got to hold that gun as well, and I was really stoked. It is a very cool gun. And in terms of wood finish, that is a beautiful wood stock, if you happen to be into that wood stock. And it comes in nickel finishes, kind of those weather-resistant finishes with synthetic stocks, and vice versa, nickeled finish barrels and receivers, but with, wood stocks. So they have a lot of options. Its action is a side lever action, okay, instead of a bolt, okay? But so you saw where your money went there. It's $100 more expensive. Things are pretty refined, though, and I'm pretty darn sure from the reviews I've heard from the K-Row guys that own those guns, is they're pretty value-friendly guns in terms of what you get. They're very, very, very well made. And Gamo's coming out with a bullpup. It's called the Furia, which reminds me of the series added onto the movie Pitch Black, okay, with the whole he's Furian thing, okay. I don't know, I don't like the name of it, but the Gamo Furia it's made by BSA, so it's supposed to be a really high quality, very well made bullpup, but in terms of price range, it's we're talking 1,000 versus something under 400. So it's something to help you guys gauge what's what on a bullpup. I want it to have, FX and all those other high name brands have kind of set the bar, and even Hatsan has the Bullmaster or something like that, the Gladius, and they've moved the cocking lever up here, okay? And I'm just saying that that's more of a fluid system, and so spending $1,000 to kind of be where you're at spending $500, I would rather have the K-Row. Just saying. Not that I've tested both those rifles. If anybody wants to send me rifles to test, let me know. I'm not a brand specific person. I'm an independent reviewer. I do this because I like to do it. I like to keep you guys informed. If you're still here, click like, subscribe, and I really appreciate you guys watching this review.